Part 35. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Ken Ru Xiahua. Chapter 341. You scumbag Li, if you want to take a break, you have to ask Wei 11 and Xia for their opinions on whether we should have a second round. Humph, who asked you to hurt a few of us? You deserve this. Li Yuan smiled awkwardly and pretended to be pitiful. He first looked at Xia's Haijin, blinked at her and asked for help. It seems to be saying, "My treasure girl, please spare me." Seeing Li Yuan's funny look, Xia's Haijin suddenly couldn't help laughing, but also felt secretly distressed. She glanced at Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi and whispered, "Otherwise, let's do this." Li Yuan's face suddenly lit up with joy, and he thought to himself, "My dear's Haijin, she knows how to feel sorry for me." Zhong Tingyu glanced at Xia's Haijin, who looked shy, with a half smile but not a smile. She had already anticipated how Xia's Haijin would answer. Although they only knew each other briefly, she could roughly feel what kind of character Xia's Haijin was. A girl with this kind of personality will never be her enemy. After fixing Xia's Haijin with his eyes, Li Yuan pretended to be pitiful and looked at Bai Wuxi. He said in a very gentle tone, "Xiao Bai." Li Yuan originally thought that Bai Wuxi would also nod in agreement. Who would have thought that Bai Wuxi did not agree, but looked at Li Yuan and asked about another matter. "Li Yuan, tell us about the Zhihu.com that was just launched today." Li Yuan looked stunned, not expecting Bai Wuxi to ask about this. Regarding Zhihu.com, there was nothing to hide, and Li Yuan decided to tell the truth. Li Yuan looked at the two girls, Bai Wuxi and Zhong Tingyu. They did not know about Zhihu before, nor did they know that he had established a company. "Xiao Bai, Xiao Yu, I came to Shanghai before the university started and established an internet technology company called Datang Technology. The Zhihu website is the first product of our company. It was just launched today." Bai Wuxi felt very aggrieved and a little sour after hearing Li Yuan's answer. Before the confession after the college entrance examination, Li Yuan would take the initiative to share everything in his life with himself. But after that confession, an invisible gap suddenly appeared between the two people, isolating the two people. From then on, Li Yuan never shared anything in his life with him. I don't even know when he came to the magical city or when he opened the company. Under today's situation, Li Yuan didn't want to keep hiding it, so he simply briefly explained the situation and future plans. A man with his own real career will be more charming, and treating these girls sincerely may not be a bad thing. At the very least, let them understand that sometimes they are really busy in the company and making money. Instead of being busy dating other girls, which will make them think wildly. In the future, the company may also develop games and other products. The company is located in Longjia building. If you are free, you can come with me to have a look. By the way, I met with the school's vice president Ma Tangfei this afternoon and applied for the college student entrepreneurship support program. The school approved 6 classrooms for our company as entrepreneurship bases, which are in classrooms 101 and 102 on the first floor of the teaching and research building. I'm going to it was built there as the operational base for the Zhihu website. I am arranging for people to recruit some part-time poor college students from the internet to work in the space. If you are free, you can go and inspect the work in the future. They are all our own industries. When Bai Wuxi and Zhong Tingyu heard Li Yuan talking about their own property, their cheeks turned red and they were a little shy. They glanced at each other and quickly returned to normal expressions. Bai Wuxi glanced at Li Yuan faintly, and said inexplicably, "Brother, I hope you won't hide everything from us in the future." Li Yuan chuckled, "No, one of you is studying accounting, one is studying business administration, and the other is studying computer science. They are all very useful. You will need more help from your company in the future." Bai Wuxi looked embarrassed, rolled her eyes at Li Yuan, and snorted, "Okay, we are only in the freshman year, and we haven't learned the professional courses yet, and you want to make us work as coolies. Zhong Tingyu also pursed her lips and snickered, her eyes showing strange colors, and she joked with a smile. Senior, if you are not afraid of bankruptcy, I can go to the company to help you. We can't make money, so how can we spend money? Listening to Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi's banter, Xia's Haijin couldn't help but smile. Li Yuan laughed and replied confidently, it's quite difficult to bankrupt me. You still need to work harder and spend more money to make me bankrupt as soon as possible. Zhong Tingyu bit her lip and joked, this is what you said, Wei 11, Zhaijin, we must spend money hard to make scumbag Li bankrupt as soon as possible. Yeah, Bai Wuxi also added with a smile and rolled his eyes at Li Yuan. He, when you go bankrupt, we will support you. Li Yuan's eyes lit up and he muttered, then it's settled. You spend your money hard to make me bankrupt as soon as possible, and then you will be the one to support me. Speaking of which, I quite like to eat soft rice. Listening to Li Yuan's answer, the three girls couldn't help but smile. With such a joke, the originally tense atmosphere suddenly became much more harmonious. Under the sycamore tree not far from Li Yuan and his friends, there were a few paparazzi who liked to eat melons. Some people were holding binoculars and were peeping at the movements of Li Yuan and his friends from a distance. Tisk tisk, Li Yuan is really good at coaxing girls now that they are just a little older, they are already talking and laughing. Alas, I didn't pinch it, it was so boring. It would be great if we could see a few school beauties tearing apart, that scene would definitely be exciting. Alas, there is indeed a reason why Li Yuan can have several girlfriends at the same time, and it is not just because he is talented and rich. If it were me, faced with the situation of three girlfriends meeting, I really can't think of how to solve it, and it is very likely to start a fight. Not only do you need to be rich, talented, and good looking, you also need to have emotional intelligence and be able to speak well, to be able to play well. To be honest, I kind of admire Li Yuan. Not only did he date three such beautiful girlfriends at the same time, but he also managed to get them to live harmoniously together. It's so worth learning from us boys. He is simply a role model for men of our generation. Ha ha ha, Li Yuan also has a title on the internet. Do you know what it is called? Called the grandfather of scumbags. He also scumbags three school beauties who are like fairy sisters, and one of them is roommate. He is really awesome. Mad, I dare say that more than 90% of the men in the country are attracted to Li Yuan. Envy, jealousy, and hatred. To say the least, it must be at least 99%. There is no man who is not lewd, unless he is a eunuch. In history, some people have lost their country for the sake of beauty. Li Yuan felt this rare sense of relaxation and breathed a sigh of relief. The current situation was not so tense. This was a good start. As long as they get together often, preferably as best friends, then he will be so sexually blessed. Thanks to Lazy Yanjiang's younger brother for the 10,000-point reward. Recommend a book to a friend. Chapter 206. My girlfriends with high IQs, who will you take home tonight? As a lustful man, it is naturally very normal to fantasize about living a happy sexual life like an ancient emperor. This situation often happens in real society. But whether he can do it depends on whether the man has the strength. Golden houses hide beauties, and one building hides hundreds of people. The general public will no longer be surprised in the future, and those men will still be married. This is free love, Li Yuan muttered in his heart. Seeing the three girlfriends who all have fairy looks and their own characteristics, and the relaxed atmosphere with beautiful smiles, Li Yuan suddenly got a little confused, and indescribable scenes appeared in his mind. If he wrote it down, he would get a 404. Dynamic pictures. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but reveal a mean smile that all men understand. Seeing Li Yuan's silly smile, Zhong Tingyu snorted, "Senior, what are you laughing at? You feel a little malicious." Only then did Li Yuan come back to his senses. Facing Zhong Tingyu's half-smiling gaze, he felt like he had been seen through and made an excuse with a guilty conscience. "Haha, I'm wondering how many people registered on Zhihu.com today. In the future, maybe I can also be nicknamed Zhihu founder and become an internet giant. Li Yuan's serious answer made Zhong Tingyu's beautiful face reveal a look of doubt. Li Yuan just smiled with a bit of a mean expression. Was he really thinking about the Zhihu website? Instead of thinking about unhealthy things? Did I think wrongly? Zhong Tingyu murmured in her heart, a little shyly remembering the embarrassing time with Li Yuan the night before. Bai Wuxi listened to Li Yuan's answer and asked curiously. Brother, I see that Zhihu's chopping game is circulating everywhere on the internet. Does it cost a lot of money? How is the effect? Zhong Tingyu also looked expectant and asked, I also feel that this model is very interesting and very attractive. There are many classmates in our class who are frantically forwarding and inviting others to register. It seems that there is a girl who also what a success. Senior, can you tell us about this cutting one knife operating model? Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi's majors are closely related to business, so they are naturally very interested in the business promotion model of their own company. They have no doubt about Li Yuan's talent. Even if Li Yuan's previous talents were only in literary writing and music creation, they both firmly believe that Li Yuan must also have outstanding talents in business. Only Xia's Haijin was quietly watching Li Yuan talking to Bai Wuxi and Zhong Tingyu, pinching the corner of his clothes and keeping silent. When Li Yuan saw Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi looking very interested in this business operation model, he was a little surprised and gave a brief explanation. Regarding the launch of Zhihu today, I have prepared 5 million publicity funds. First, I recruited some online trolls to post on major forums and websites, and then launched a Cut One model to stimulate the curiosity and enthusiasm of netizens. The mentality of wanting to make money is to attract users to register. This kind of cutting off a knife seems very simple, but in actual operation, it is indeed quite difficult. It is really not easy to complete the registration of 100 new users. Li Yuan looked at the three girls who were listening carefully and asked with a smile. If you want to use the method of cutting a knife to make 100 yuan, what will you do? What do you think this model can bring about? When the three girls Bai Wuxi, Zhong Tingyu, and Xia's Haijin heard Li Yuan's question, they all thought about it thoughtfully. Li Yuan just smiled calmly. He also wanted to see the business insights of these three female high IQ students. If we really talk about IQ, the female high IQ students from 985 universities are no worse than him. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 342. With my own strength, I can't get into a 985 university. Even if I perform exceptionally well, I can only get into a top 211 university. After a while, Bai Wuxi spoke first, staring at Li Yuan's eyes, and answered nervously. Brother, if it were me, the first step would be to invite relatives, friends, and classmates to help me cut a knife, and secondly, to register a few more small accounts. This cut a knife model will spread very quickly. The first person to do it may complete it very quickly, and the people behind will be very slow, or even impossible to complete it, because the people around them are likely to have registered, so, there may not be many people who actually complete the cut a knife task. The cost may not be much. After Bai Wuxi finished speaking, he stared at Li Yuan expectantly, waiting for Li Yuan's answer. Li Yuan looked at Bai Wuxi very unexpectedly. She was indeed a very smart girl, and the steps she proposed were also the way of most netizens. Bai Wuxi also clearly realized that the real strength of this model is that it spreads very quickly. Li Yuan looked at Bai Wuxi with appreciation and laughed, Xiao Bai, you are quite accurate, you have a talent for business. Hearing Li Yuan's praise, Bai Wuxi's smile became even brighter, and she felt recognized. Xiao Yu, what do you think? Li Yuan looked at Zhong Tingyu again, looking forward to her opinion. Zhong Tingyu blinked and replied with a smile, Some of my thoughts have been said by Wixie in advance, so I won't repeat them. I will simply say my opinion, don't laugh at me. Bai Wixie smiled as he listened to Zhong Tingyu's words. He looked sideways and waited for her answer, with a subconscious desire to compare and see who said the correct answer and who could get Li Yuan's approval. Zhong Tingyu stroked her hair, smiled and spoke, and her voice reached the ears of several people. I think that this cutting down model, in addition to the results that Wei 11 mentioned that will quickly multiply and promote, the biggest use is that it can increase the activity of users. At noon, I read the introduction of the Zhe website page. In addition to promoting the registration of new users, if you can improve the activity of users, you can also get a certain contribution value to replace the registration of new users. This method will help Zhe retain these users. If the content of the website is attractive enough, you can convert these netizens into website users, and Zhihu.com can complete the quantitative transformation in a very short time, which can be comparable to those big websites. I am sure, Senior, the cutting down model you use will definitely become a very typical business model in the internet field, and it will definitely be included in textbooks in the future. Moreover, this cutting down model has a wider range of uses, such as using it in the emerging field of online shopping. The effect will be better. Zhong Tingyu suddenly paused, staring at Li Yuan with bright eyes, and asked seriously. Senior, have you really not considered setting up an online shopping website like Doubao in your next step? At present, with the rapid development of the internet, online shopping is no longer unfamiliar to most people. Zhong Tingyu herself has bought some clothes online. She is very smart. After talking with Li Yuan, she immediately discovered the wide application of this cut one knife model. Zhe has become completely popular on the internet. She also browsed the content of the website roughly at noon. It is very targeted and has its own characteristics. The target users are college students and young people with a number of tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. If we can capture these core groups of people who surf the internet and consume online, it is not impossible to establish an online shopping platform similar to Doubao. Bai Wixie trembled suddenly when she heard Zhong Tingyu's question, and asked in surprise. If we build an online shopping platform, it should be very expensive. I heard that it would cost billions of dollars. These markets are not easy to do. Zhong Tingyu smiled and joked, he, anyway, Li Dazanan has money, so he can spend it as much as he wants. If he really goes bankrupt early, we can still support him. Li Yuan stared at Zhong Tingyu speechlessly and muttered, if he really goes bankrupt, I will go to your house for free meals every day. Zhong Tingyu smiled and replied, that's good, didn't you say you can cook? In the future, you will stay at home and be the housewife. The three of us sisters will go to earn money to support the family. Really? That's a good idea. Then the four of us should live together. Li Yuan's face was happy, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Thinking about it carefully, that kind of life seems to be pretty good. If I could live with Zhong Tingyu, Bai Wixie, and Xiao Haijin, three beautiful women with their own characteristics. Tisk tisk, it would definitely be very interesting and exciting. Li Yuan had already started to imagine that wonderful life in his mind. Zhong Tingyu rolled her eyes at Li Yuan and snorted, humph, you are dreaming, you look like a bad guy with bad intentions. Bai Wixie didn't know what she thought of when she heard Li Yuan's words, the four of us live together. Her cheeks suddenly turned red. She shyly glanced at Zhong Tingyu and Xiao Haijin and found that their faces were also a little red. They are not stupid, and they have all experienced human affairs, so they can naturally understand the meaning of Li Yuan's words. Li Yuan muttered, you said you wanted to raise me together. Zhong Tingyu's cheeks turned red as she listened to Li Yuan's whisper. She glanced at Bai Wixie and Xiao Haijin, who had been silent, and her heart trembled slightly. The reason why she said these words was because she wanted to get closer to Bai Wixie and Xiao Haijin and prevent the relationship from becoming so tense. As for the reason? Zhong Tingyu glanced at the talented, very emotional, and very kind man in front of her with a complicated expression. She couldn't bear to give up on him. After knowing that Li Yuan had cheated on her, she also wanted to give up, but no matter how hard she tried, she could not let go. After experiencing that incident the night before yesterday, she also figured it out. Since she couldn't let go, she should choose to accept it and fight for it. Because she had witnessed the relationship between her biological father and mother with her own eyes, she knew clearly in her heart that if she really wanted to fight, she didn't mean to mess around with Li Yuan, lose her temper, or pester him all the time. If you do that, you will only lose faster and lose more. Zhong Tingyu pursed her lips and smiled softly. Founder of Zhihu, what do you think of what I just said? Hurry up and give me some evaluation. Li Yuan smiled and said, do you want to hear the truth or a lie? Of course it's the truth. Zhong Tingyu suddenly felt nervous. Did she say something wrong? Are these not Li Yuan's true thoughts? Li Yuan chuckled, the truth is, congratulations, you answered all the questions correctly. You are a rare business wizard, a future CEO of a listed company, a female president of a Fortune 500 company, a billionaire on the Forbes wealth list. Listening to Li Yuan's words getting more and more outrageous, Zhong Tingyu glared at Li Yuan dissatisfied, pretending to be pitiful. Mr. Li is really humorous. Isn't it fun to bully a weak woman? Li Yuan laughed and replied seriously, hey, you know, I always tell the truth and never lie. If you don't believe me, ask Zhaijin, she knows very well. Right, Zhaijin. Ah, Xia Zhaijin was listening attentively. She didn't expect that the topic suddenly came to her. With a confused expression, she looked at Li Yuan and asked in a shy voice. Li Yuan, what should I know? When Li Yuan saw Xia Zhaijin's cute expression, he subconsciously touched her head, smiled, and reminded her. Zhaijin, you participated in the company's planning meeting about the launch of the Zhihu website. Do you remember what I said at that time? Xia Zhaijin nodded, remember. Li Yuan asked again, what I said at that time is similar to what Wei 11 and Tingyu said, right? Xia Zhaijin nodded again, well, it seems to be about the same. Li Yuan spread his hands and said with a smile, that's all right, Zhaijin. Now you can testify that I didn't deceive Tingyu and Xiaobai, right? Xia Zhaijin understood, looked at Zhong Tingyu who looked a little shocked, and replied softly, no. Li Yuan looked at Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi with a smile, look, I didn't lie to you. You two are like round worms in my stomach. You have guessed all my thoughts. As he spoke, Li Yuan put on a helpless expression and sighed with sadness. Oh, my girlfriend's IQ is too high. What should I do? There is no experience of being admired at all. Zhong Tingyu chuckled, rolled her eyes at Li Yuan, and snorted, huh, you can talk glibly and make us happy. Li Yuan shouted that he was wronged, no way, I have the stupidest mouth and a very low emotional intelligence. You all don't know that on the first day of school, a roommate and I went to the mall nearby to buy a 4-piece set and fell in love with a model with a good price. A 4-piece set that costs several hundred, just ask for it. Li Yuan briefly described the situation when he and Yijing went shopping for a 4-piece suit on the first day of school. I didn't consider at all that his family's financial situation was not good at the time, so I bought an extra set without thinking. Alas, I didn't consider his self-esteem at all. In the past few days, I feel that our relationship has become alienated. Even during the class basketball game, they didn't even come over to cheer us on. Do you think my emotional intelligence is low? This was the first time Zhong Tingyu heard Li Yuan tell this story. When she heard the words, she nodded seriously. Looking at it this way, senior, your emotional intelligence is indeed quite low. At that time, you should have asked your roommate for his opinion before making a decision. Look, I'm right, My emotional intelligence is low, Li Yuan quickly answered. Wait until I finish. Zhong Tingyu rolled her eyes at Li Yuan, pursed her lips and chuckled, then changed the subject and joked. Senior, maybe your emotional intelligence is all focused on how to coax girls into sex, so you will be glib to girls. Wuxi, Zhaijin, do you think what I said is right? Yes, Xia Zhaijin nodded in a very rare way, and the things Li Yuan did to her because of her part-time job came to her mind. A simple girl with a blank slate of emotional experiences like her, who knew nothing about these things, was easily deceived by Li Yuan and fell into the abyss of love. When Li Yuan saw that the treasure girl Xia Zhaijin had rebelled, he couldn't help but touched his forehead in embarrassment and looked at Bai Wuxi. Wuxi, to be fair, am I good at coaxing girls? Bai Wuxi glanced at Li Yuan, who looked expectant, and then glanced at Zhong Tingyu and Xia Zhaijin with his peripheral vision, feeling a little sad in his heart. Just now, she felt very aggrieved and sad when she heard Li Yuan talking about Xia Zhaijin attending the company meeting. She was the one who had known Li Yuan the longest and was recognized as his childhood sweetheart, but she knew the least about Li Yuan's current situation. This hit her hard. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 343. Bai Wuxi forced a smile on her face, nodded towards Li Yuan, and answered meaningfully. Actually, Li Yuan is really stupid. You probably don't know that during my sophomore year of high school, one night during self-study in the classroom, there was a power outage. He secretly grabbed my hand, and I didn't resist. After waiting for the call, some time later, he actually asked me, "Can I hold your hand?" Hand. Haha, do you think Li Yuan's emotional intelligence is low? Li Yuan looked even more embarrassed when he listened to Bai Wuxi talking about the embarrassing things in the past. In his previous life, he had done this many times, which later seemed to be very retarded behavior. This is also the reason why he has always been obsessed with Bai Wuxi. If he never had the chance, he would really be just a pure-blooded licking dog. Bai Yueguang is just Bai Yueguang living in memory, and will not evolve into his own inner demon. It is an inner demon that is difficult to eliminate even if he is reborn. But he clearly had many opportunities, but he missed them all. Looking back now, the main reason is that in my previous life, I loved Bai Wuxi too much and felt too inferior in my heart. Because I pretended to be a rich second generation, in a super metropolis like Shanghai, it was easy to see through it at a glance. Listening to Bai Wuxi talking about the past with Li Yuan, the expressions of Zhong Tingyu and Xia Zhaijin were exactly the same, and they both felt very unbelievable. With the tactful way Li Yuan treated them, even coaxing and deceiving was not an exaggeration at all. They were completely different from each other. Can a person's personality really change that much in a short period of time? Li Yuan was about to answer. Suddenly, in my pocket, my cell phone suddenly rang. Li Yuan took out his cell phone and saw that it was a call from Queen Mother Xia. He was hesitating whether to answer it or not. When he looked up, he saw three girls, Xia Zhaijin, Zhong Tingyu, and Bai Wuxi, all looking at him. Maid, just pick it up. The three of them have met. Is there anything else to hide? Li Yuan muttered to himself, looked at the three curious eyes, and joked meaningfully. Would you like to hear my mother's phone number? After hearing the call from Li Yuan's mother, Xia Zhaijin, who had been silent all this time, suddenly became nervous. She sat upright and listened. Not to mention Bai Wuxi, whose nervous expression was palpable, and a pair of beautiful eyes that flickered as if they could speak, staring at Li Yuan nervously and expectantly. Only Zhong Tingyu's face remained normal. She had just met Li Yuan's mother at noon. She had already experienced the tense moment. She was thinking wildly in her mind as to why she called Li Yuan at this time. With a faint smile on his face, Li Yuan answered his mother's call. Of course, he didn't have a voiceover. Xiao Yuan, have you finished school? When will you be back? Li Yuan glanced at the three girls. As expected, they all seemed to be listening attentively. When Li Yuan looked over, they quickly turned their heads in panic. Li Yuan found it very interesting. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Xia Qin's voice continuing to come. I bought a lot of vegetables from the supermarket and will show you my skills tonight. You must bring Tingyu back for a meal. Li Yuan felt embarrassed and thought to himself, if it weren't for this situation, I would have agreed to it. But now I have three girlfriends around me, how should I answer? Li Yuan coughed and decided in his mind that he had to tell his mother about the current situation from a side perspective, and then let Xia's Haijin and Bai Wuxi meet each other. A bowl of water should be balanced, don't favor one over the other, this will prevent fights. Well, Mom, I still have something to do here. I'm not sure whether I can go back yet. When Bai Wuxi listened to Li Yuan's answer, a question suddenly appeared in his mind. Aunt Xia has returned to the Magic City. She had chatted and met with Li Zixia, and knew that Xia Qin would be back soon, but the specific time was unclear. Will he take me to see Aunt Xia? Bai Wuxi suddenly became a little uneasy. If she still had confidence before, in the past few days, her self-esteem and confidence have been completely wiped out. Xia's Haijin on the side, after hearing Li Yuan's answer, also stared at Li Yuan nervously. In her mind, her grandmother's private instructions to her before returning from the mountain city to the magic city emerged in her mind. Ajin, when you arrive in the magic city, if you meet Li Yuan's parents, you must behave well, be diligent in your actions, and be sweet in your mouth. You must treat them with the same respect as you treat your grandmother, and you must rush to do the work. If you talk about you, you don't talk back, just be patient and it will be over. We women are all like this. Xia's Haijin thought about her grandmother's diligent advice, and suddenly became nervous. She pinched the hem of her skirt tightly and watched Li Yuan make a phone call, her heart beating rapidly. Suddenly there was an inexplicable expectation and anxiety in my heart. Will he take me home? Li Yuan didn't know that Bai Wuxi and Xia's Haijin would have such complicated psychology because of their mother's phone call, and at this moment, they would have the same idea. Li Yuan glanced behind him out of the corner of his eye, coughed slightly, and replied with a smile. Mom, I have something to do here. Wait a minute and I'll call you back. I'll hang up first. Xia Qin did not doubt, well, if you come back, tell me in advance and I will prepare the dishes first. Got it, Mom. After Li Yuan hung up the phone, he turned around and looked at his three girlfriends with different expressions. He smiled slightly and decided to tell the truth. Well, let me tell you something. My mother returned to the Magic City from her hometown at noon today. Li Yuan paused and paid special attention to the expressions of the three of them. Xia's Haijin and Bai Wuxi trembled suddenly and looked very nervous. Zhong Tingyu had met them at noon, but her expression did not change. Well, do you want to go back with me tonight? As soon as Li Yuan said this, Zhong Tingyu chuckled, rolled her eyes at Li Yuan, and asked back. Senior, do you think it's appropriate? Li Yuan nodded, it's appropriate. What's inappropriate? My mother bought a lot of vegetables, enough for us to eat, and the room is big enough to live in. Zhong Tingyu glanced at Li Yuan with a smile, and suddenly stopped talking, which made Li Yuan a little uncomfortable. Is there something on my face? Zhong Tingyu pursed her lips, turned her head, and glanced at Bai Wuxi and Xia's Haijin, curious about what they would choose. Bai Wuxi looked at Li Yuan and plucked up the courage to ask, Li Yuan, shall we go back together? Li Yuan nodded, we can go back together today, or meet alone another day, it depends on your ideas. Bai Wuxi opened her mouth, wanting to say something but stopped. Today, the three of them suddenly met on the basketball court, which was already very embarrassing. If the three of them went home together to meet Li Yuan's family, she would not be able to accept that situation. However, Bai Wuxi hesitated in her heart, worried that if she refused, Li Yuan would be angry. In her heart, she also wanted to meet her future mother-in-law. Seeing that Bai Wuxi became silent after asking a question, Li Yuan frowned slightly and sighed in his heart. He was not surprised by Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi's reactions. Most girls would find it difficult to make a decision if they were faced with such a situation, especially if they were to go home with other girlfriends to meet their parents. The scene was so embarrassing that it was unimaginable. Li Yuan cast his eyes on Xia Zhaijin and asked with a smile, "Zhaijin, what about you?" Xia Zhaijin shyly glanced at Li Yuan and answered in a mosquito-like voice. I listen to you." Li Yuan laughed and rubbed her head, thinking that she was indeed my treasure girl, always so considerate and understanding, never worrying about me, and always standing firmly on my side. Listening to Xia Zhaijin's answer, Bai Wuxi's eyes flashed with a complex color, and he felt a little regretful. Perhaps, he should have agreed to Li Yuan directly just now. Zhong Tingyu suddenly asked with a smile, "Senior, Auntie should stay in Shanghai for a while, right?" Li Yuan nodded. "She will probably stay until the spring festival before returning home." "Oh, so that's it." Zhong Tingyu breathed a sigh of relief, turned to look at Bai Wuxi, and suggested, "Anyway, there is still a long time in the future, let's go to see Auntie separately. It's really not appropriate to go together. Wuxi, what do you think?" Bai Wuxi looked at Zhong Tingyu deeply, and couldn't guess her thoughts. After thinking about it carefully, he nodded. Zhong Tingyu smiled and rolled her eyes at Li Yuan, blinked at him, and joked, "Senior, you take Zhaijin home tonight, Wuxi, and I will go to see Auntie another day." Li Yuan looked at Zhong Tingyu unexpectedly. She was acting very wrong today. Why was she always thinking about him? It seemed like she had suddenly become a different person. However, for him, this is a good thing. Li Yuan smiled, "Okay, Zhaijin and I will go back tonight, Xiaobai and I will go back tomorrow, and Tingyu the day after tomorrow." Chapter 207 GF's Little Thoughts, Conflicts Between Besties. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 344. After listening to Li Yuan's arrangement, Zhong Tingyu still had a smile on her face, and her heart was calm. Ostensibly, she was the last one seen. In fact, she was the first to see him. We had already met her at noon today, and it was Li Yuan who took the initiative to take her and pick her up at the station in person. So Zhong Tingyu was not dissatisfied after being ranked last by Li Yuan. Seeing that Zhong Tingyu's face remained as usual and her smile remained the same, Bai Wuxi took a deep look at Zhong Tingyu and nodded. "Brother, let me follow your arrangements." Li Yuan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. "Okay, that's it? Do you still want to continue watching the game?" Zhong Tingyu pursed her lips and chuckled, with a playful look on her face, "If you don't fight anymore, what else are we going to watch? Why don't we go see other handsome guys? Will senior you be jealous?" Li Yuan smiled awkwardly and replied duplicitously, "Don't worry, I'm never jealous." "Tch, only a devil can believe it," Zhong Tingyu spat, thinking of the small friction that occurred on the playground under the moonlight that night. Li Yuan didn't even allow others to appreciate his dance. He must be very jealous. Humph, don't believe him. He is just a jealous person. He is so cute. Bai Wuxi glanced at Li Yuan and smiled. She knew better than anyone how jealous Li Yuan was. In high school, she received many love letters, some of which were publicly sent to her by boys in other classes during recess. And every time, Li Yuan's expression was wonderful, and that expression was still fresh in her memory. Li Yuan retorted without confidence, How could you? You have wronged me. When did I become jealous? Biwixi snorted softly. Brother, do you want me to tell you your reaction again when someone sent me a love letter in high school? Zhong Tingyu's eyes lit up, she blinked at Biwixi, and said with a smile. Wixi, please tell me why scumbag Li is so jealous. I really want to hear it. Hee, okay, Biwixi nodded and coughed lightly. We were at the same table at the time. Biwixi was about to reveal some embarrassing things about Li Yuan when he heard Li Yuan's cell phone ringing again. As if grasping a life-saving straw, Li Yuan quickly took out his mobile phone and took a look. It was Lin Yue calling. It's about the company, I'll take a call first. Li Yuan motioned to a few people. As soon as the call was connected, Lin Yue's voice came over the other end of the phone. Mr. Li, are you convenient now? I would like to report the current situation to you. Li Yuan nodded. It's convenient, you say. Lin Yue's tone was very relaxed. Mr. Li, according to our backend statistics, since Sci-fi was officially launched, after 9 hours of publicity and promotion, the number of registered users has reached 4 million, and today the cumulative number of registered users exceeds 5 million. It has been confirmed and the expected target has been exceeded. Currently, the number of users who have completed the cut a knife task has reached 5,452. All users have also completed the lottery, and were selected to win 5 laptops, 12 mobile phones, and 35 MP4s. These prizes and the list of winners, the operations department is preparing to carry out a scrolling display on the homepage of Sci-fi to improve the website's attractiveness. Li Yuan listened to Lin Yue's introduction and nodded with satisfaction. Today's first day data is also among the best in the entire domestic internet history. The huge online troll army and hack and slash model and novel website content completely detonated the entire internet. A large part of the reason for this stems from Li Yuan's fame and his various gossips and rumors. Internet writers who earn millions a month, talented music creators, and bohemian freshmen are like adding fuel to the fire, causing the spread of Zhihu.com to skyrocket like a rocket. Getting faster and faster. Well done, thank you for your hard work. Li Yuan praised the team formed by Lin Yue. Today's results are indeed very exaggerated. You must know that at this time, the total number of internet users in China is only 200-300 million. As the leading forum-type website, Qiandu Taiba only has 100-200 million registered users. If this increase can continue for a week, there will be tens of millions of users registered. Even if only 5% is left, there will still be millions of active users, and it may become one of the top 3 online forums in the country. Lin Yue answered modestly, Mr. Li, thank you. It's all because of your guidance that we can achieve such good results. Li Yuan smiled and said, don't be polite, it's all the achievements of our joint efforts. Although it's a good start, how to retain users is a huge test. We must not start in anticlimax. You must work hard these days and be sure we must do a good job in the operation and maintenance of the website, especially the protection of the server, to effectively improve the user experience and retain as many users as possible. Today's more than 4 million registered users, even if 10% can stay, it is considered a great success. If there are only 20% to 30%, it is simply unimaginable. Lin Yue listened carefully to Li Yuan's instructions and quickly accepted the task. Mr. Li, please rest assured that we will definitely operate and maintain the website content according to your guidance. Well, I have something else to do tonight, so I won't go to the company. Team Leader Lin, if you take them to have extra meals, you can raise some standards appropriately. The company will reimburse the expenses. Mr. Li, that's great. Let me thank you on their behalf. Li Yuan asked, is there anything else? Lin Yue asked cautiously, Mr. Li, it's like this, The Magic City TV Financial News contacted the company and wants to do an exclusive interview with you to talk about the publicity and operation model of Zhihu. Do you want to agree? Li Yuan was slightly startled. The Magic City Financial News wants to interview me. Hearing this familiar name, Li Yuan's mind immediately emerged a few days ago at the Tianyu building, at the Battle Starry Sky new book signing event, the beautiful reporter Fang Jueqing from the Magic City Financial TV station. It was only more than a week ago, but it seemed like a long time. He had gone through so many things this week, and his mind and body had been greatly baptized. Li Yuan nodded. Okay, then you should make a good connection with the Magic City Financial TV station. Is there anything else? Lin Yue thought for a while and said another thing, Mr. Li, some of the equipment you asked to purchase have arrived. Do you want to put them into the operation and maintenance base of Daxia University now? Li Yuan pondered for a moment and gave a positive answer, yes, according to the plan discussed and formulated during the meeting, the equipment will be installed and debugged this weekend, and the personnel will be in place next week, and it will be put into operation immediately. I will personally arrange the venue at Daxia University, and deal with the classrooms and water and electricity networks in advance. Okay, Mr. Li, I will go to arrange it now. Well, go. After hanging up the phone, Li Yuan's face was full of joy. This is his first real business, and it has made a good start for the time being. As long as he can stick to it step by step, Zhihu will surpass his previous life, and it is very likely. Seeing Li Yuan smile, Zhong Tingyu asked with interest, Senior, what are you so happy about? Li Yuan smiled and explained, Zhihu went online today, and the results are pretty good, meeting psychological expectations. Zhong Tingyu blinked, bit her lip, and asked with a smile, just met expectations. The data should be pretty good, right? Well, barely. It should set a new historical record in the domestic internet field, Li Yuan pretended lightly. Zhong Tingyu glared at Li Yuan speechlessly and snorted, Senior, your tone is really asking for a beating. Bai Wuxi also added a sentence and chuckled, that's right, you are too good at pretending. Haha. I'm really not pretending, Li Yuan smiled and explained, registered users and active users of the website are two different concepts. Now it's just that the number of registered users has made a good start, but whether the quality of the website can be maintained and the registered users can be converted into active users is still a different matter. Just like the cost of publicity and promotion of Zhihu, we invested more than 5 million in cash, and today the number of newly registered users has exceeded 4 million, but it is not certain how many will stay. If these registered users cannot stay, they will just be zombie users and have no use. Bai Wuxi suddenly curiously asked, Brother, I don't know much about it. How do websites usually make money? We have invested so much, can we make money? Li Yuan looked at Bai Wuxi unexpectedly. He didn't expect her to pay attention to the profit model of the website. He smiled and explained, traditional websites, if they want to make money, generally make money by advertising. This is also a way for Zhihu to make money. However, it is difficult to maintain profits simply by advertising. It is also very limited. It will affect the user experience and is not conducive to the long-term development of the website. If you want to continue to make profits, you need other ways. Bai Wuxi, Zhong Tingyu, and Xiaz Haijin, the three girls, all listened carefully to what Li Yuan said. This is also a new field and a new beginning for them. Seeing them staring at him with serious expectation, Li Yuan coughed and continued. I also have some other ideas. The establishment of the online forums Zhihu is mainly used to attract traffic, not to make money from it. There are other businesses that really make money. It's just that some ideas are not mature yet. Let me keep it a secret. You will know it later. Listening to Li Yuan's confident expression, Zhong Tingyu's eyes were full of stars. Confident and handsome men are the most attractive. Li Yuan already has a special temperament at this time, which makes people respect him. She also thought of what Li Yuan promised her before. The two agreed to establish a catering brand and open a chain of milk tea shops. A few days ago, she even thought of the name of the milk tea shop, studied many types of products in the market, and made some development plans, but she didn't have time to tell Li Yuan. Bai Wuxi listened to Li Yuan's confident business plan, her heart trembled, staring at Li Yuan, who seemed to be glowing all over, and exclaimed, "Brother, you are really great. We are just freshmen and don't know anything yet, but you have already started a business and achieved such good results." "Haha, I only know a little bit and have foresight, you know," Li Yuan laughed. Suddenly, he frowned and a look of displeasure flashed across his face. He saw someone in a corner holding a telescope, peeping at this side, with a bit of a wretched smile, as if discussing something. "Damn, a bunch of dead perverts," Li Yuan muttered in a low voice. Bai Wuxi heard Li Yuan's muttering and asked in confusion, "Brother, what are you talking about? What dead pervert?" Li Yuan pointed to the northwest corner and frowned, saying, "Someone is spying on us with a telescope over there." "Someone is spying?" Bai Wuxi was startled and asked in surprise. "Yes, next to a small forest." Bai Wuxi, Zhong Tingyu, and Xia's Haijin followed the direction Li Yuan pointed and saw 4 or 5 boys peeping at them with telescopes. Zhong Tingyu frowned and looked disgusted, "Too perverted, how come there are still such disgusting boys in our school?" Bai Wuxi also shuddered and spat, "I thought the character and quality of boys in 985 universities would be better, but it seems that they are all the same. When we return to the dormitory, we must remind Sasha, Mikey, and others to draw the curtains when changing clothes. There are too many disgusting men now." Zhong Tingyu nodded and agreed, "That's right, a group of gentle scum, really shameless and disgusting." Bai Wuxi rarely united with Zhong Tingyu, "He who stays with Zhu will be red, and he who stays with Mo will be black. Fortunately, there are no such people around us. If the confession fails, chase her bestie." Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 345. Li Yuan listened to Bai Wuxi and Zhong Tingyu's angry scolding. Suddenly thought, "Good brother Wang Shui seems to like to use telescopes to spy on the beauties in school. Why, do you feel implied?" Li Yuan coughed, "Ahem, people are afraid of being famous and pigs are afraid of being fat. I am both famous and fat, so this kind of thing is inevitable. Just like those stars, I will be followed by the omnipresent paparazzi all the time. I have no privacy at all. It's especially annoying. Xiaobai, Tingyu, Zhaijin, let's go back. It's time for dinner." Zhong Tingyu and Bai Wuxi looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Zhong Tingyu smiled and said, "Well, senior, you take Zhaijin back to see auntie first, Wuxi and I will go back to the dormitory together." Bai Wuxi looked at Li Yuan and Xia's Haijin, who looked a little shy, with a complicated look, and nodded silently. Li Yuan did not doubt him and asked, "Do you want me to take you there?" Zhong Tingyu smiled and said, "Senior, no need. There are so many people here. You don't want to be watched, do you? 5 or 6 o'clock is the peak time for university dinners. If Li Yuan really walks with 3 stunning beauties, he will definitely be on the school's hot search again. Although, he himself doesn't care." Li Yuan smiled and said, "Okay, you go back. I'll go and see the situation of our class's competition. Don't let the opponent reverse it, that would be funny." Zhong Tingyu waved at Li Yuan and Xia's Haijin. "If you don't know, you might think they are good friends." "Well, senior, bye." Li Yuan touched Xia's Haijin's head and smiled, "Zhaijin, let's go." "Oh," Xia's Haijin responded obediently and followed Li Yuan away. After Li Yuan took Xia's Haijin to the basketball court. Only Bai Wuxi and Zhong Tingyu were left at the original place, and the atmosphere suddenly became a little silent. Zhong Tingyu still smiled and said, "Way 11, let's go back to." Bai Wuxi did not answer, but stared at Zhong Tingyu coldly. His eyes were filled with various colors, his mood was very uneasy, and his face looked a little ugly. Zhong Tingyu felt uncomfortable under Bai Wuxi's gaze, and frowned. "Wuxi, why are you looking at me like that?" Bai Wuxi stared at Zhong Tingyu coldly, and said in a very impolite tone, "Zhong Tingyu, don't you want to explain?" Zhong Tingyu also heard that Bai Wuxi's tone was wrong, and Xiaomei hurriedly. "What to explain?" Bai Wuxi teased in a bad tone, "He, have you forgotten what you said to me that day? If you can't do it, don't make a solemn promise. Do you feel happy to treat us all as clowns? Even if you said at that time that you would compete with me openly, I would still look up to you." Listening to the sarcasm in Bai Wuxi's tone, Zhong Tingyu suddenly fell silent. Bai Wuxi's words deeply hurt her. Although Bai Wuxi was telling the truth, she did want to give up at that time. But Zhong Tingyu sighed, looked at Bai Wuxi deeply, and said in a low and helpless voice, "Wuxi, love is very selfish. Who can predict the future? No matter what the future will be like, at least don't let your future self regret it. Li Yuan is indeed very good. I really thought about giving up and forgetting him, but I couldn't forget him. His figure is like a brand, which has been deeply engraved in my mind. I can only control myself from actively looking for him, but when he stands in front of me, go to when he hugged me, my defenses were easily broken. I don't know why I love him so deeply. Maybe it's because he brought a ray of light to my dark world. I don't know whether what he said to me is true or false, 3 lives and 3 worlds, 10 miles of peach blossoms, mountains and seas, but I choose to believe him again. If you think I'm shameless or hateful, it's up to you. But please remember that I'm not your only rival in love." After Zhong Tingyu finished speaking, she stared at the backs of Li Yuan and Xia's Haijin leaving. At this time, Li Yuan had taken the initiative to hold Xia's Haijin's hand. Before today, she didn't know much about Xia's Haijin and the other girl from another school. She also thought that Li Yuan's favorite person would be Bai Wuxi beside him. After all, Li Yuan had pursued Bai Wuxi for 3 years in high school and had known her the longest. But when she met Xia's Haijin today, she realized that she was totally wrong. With her intuition, she was 100% sure that Li Yuan's favorite person must be Xia's Haijin. This girl who looked innocent and shy, harmless, and liked to lower her head when she talked, with red cheeks and a gentle and soft look, was the one Li Yuan liked the most. She deliberately observed Li Yuan's expressions and actions when facing herself, Bai Wuxi, and Xia's Haijin. Only when facing Xia's Haijin, Li Yuan would inadvertently show an expression of pampering and love, and even in front of the two of them, he couldn't help showing a very intimate behavior of touching the head. Li Yuan's relaxed mentality was not when he was with herself and Bai Wuxi. Bai Wuxi was not stupid, she was also a very smart girl. After listening to Zhong Tingyu's words, she instantly understood the meaning of the other party's words. Following Zhong Tingyu's gaze, Bai Wuxi looked at the 2 figures on the basketball court in front of her, and her mood was very uneasy. She could also feel that Li Yuan treated her differently from this girl. Bai Wuxi looked at Zhong Tingyu with a complicated expression, feeling very aggrieved and very uncomfortable. This feeling, the current situation, is like a few girls competing for Li Yuan's favor. This is not the perfect love she expected in her heart. Bai Wuxi looked at Zhong Tingyu with a complicated expression and sighed. "Tingyu, you know, this is not the love I expected. I feel very tired of love recently. I have tried very hard, but I feel that the distance between him and me is getting farther and farther. I don't even have time to be alone with him. I envy other couples on campus. They can eat together in the cafeteria, walk together on campus, read books together in the library, study together in the classroom, and participate in club activities together. But I don't have these. Who doesn't? Zhong Tingyu also sighed and looked at the sunset in the sky. It had fallen between the tall buildings, illuminating the city with red. But ask yourself, can you really let him go? Bai Wuxi was silent. Thinking of this relationship, tears suddenly fell and wet her face. Like Zhong Tingyu, she has also fallen into it and can't let it go. Li Yuan took Xia's Haijin to the side of the court. The game was not over yet, but most of the men and women who were watching had disappeared, and only some students from the two computer classes were left. Li Lanrong and several other girls did not leave. Seeing Li Yuan leading Xia's Haijin over, they asked curiously. Li Yuan, Haijin, why are you back again? Have you settled the matter over there? Yeah, Li Yuan smiled and said, I'll come to see the result of the game. At this time, the score on the field was 82-68, and the lead of Computer Class 1 was greatly reduced. Fortunately, there were only 3 minutes left in the game. It was still very difficult to catch up with 14 points in 3 minutes, but it was not impossible. We only needed to defend a few rounds, make a few mistakes, and score a few more goals. The basketball court was a place to create miracles. On the court, Lu Kangs and others from Computer Class 2 saw Li Yuan suddenly appear at the side of the court again, and they were immediately in an uproar. Some were uneasy and whispered. Why is Li Yuan back again? He won't see that we are about to complete a big reversal and continue to play, right? Damn, if Li Yuan comes on the court again, it would be too shameless. Then why did we work so hard? We should just surrender. But there is no rule that Li Yuan cannot come on the court again. If he comes on the court again, we can't do anything about it. When other students, including Lucia, Renjun, Wu Hao and others saw Li Yuan appear on the side of the court, they were shocked. The sense of urgency of being chased by points disappeared in an instant, and the invisible pressure on the body disappeared without a trace. Lucia panted and shouted, Brothers, Brother Yuan is back, all of you cheer up, defend this round well, and use up the last 3 minutes. Defense, defense, Renjun shouted loudly, commanding the defense, his eyes fixed on the opponent. Tired, he put his hands on his waist. He rarely played a full game in high school, and never thought that playing a full game would be so tiring. Li Yuan's arrival shocked the players of Computer Class 2, and also made the players of Computer Class 1 feel like they were injected with chicken blood, and their momentum soared. This round ended with a 3-pointer from Computer Class 2. Suzuki-Yang dribbled the ball, pressed the time, and took advantage of the moment when the opponent rushed over to throw the ball directly to Lucia, who was in the open position inside. Lucia took the ball and gently rubbed it. The basketball went into the net obediently, and the lead returned to 16 points again. There were only 2 minutes left. In the next attack, Computer Class 2 missed another 3-pointer, and the game was no longer suspenseful. When the referee blew the whistle to end the game, Li Yuan's first-class game after his rebirth ended with a big win. Lucia, Renjun, Wu Hao and others all came to Li Yuan and shouted excitedly. Brother Yuan, we won, where are we going tonight? Haha, Brother Yuan, you lost the bet, treat me tonight, I want a big meal. Brother Yuan came back to watch the last few minutes, it must be for the treat, right, Brother Yuan? Lucia, Wu Hao and others said something. I wish Li Yuan could conjure up a luxurious meal on the spot. Li Yuan looked at Lucia and others and smiled, a big meal is no problem, I guarantee you will be satisfied. Seeing Li Yuan agreed, Lucia's eyes lit up, licked his lips, and laughed, Brother Yuan is generous, I must kill you a big meal tonight. Wu Hao, Renjun, Suzuki-Yang and others also looked expectant. Their families are all ordinary, and they rarely have the opportunity to go out for extra meals. They are reluctant to order a few meat dishes in the cafeteria. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ryu Xiahua. Chapter 346. Hearing that Li Yuan was really willing to treat guests to a big meal, he immediately felt his stomach growling. At this time, girls Li Lanrong, Ji Chen Chen, and Gao Xian also came over. Li Lanrong chuckled and said, "Great talent Li, we have been applauding you for a long time, do you want to reward us too?" As soon as these words came out, the girls Gao Xian and Ji Chen Chen also looked expectant. As Xia's Haijin's roommate, it's not too much to indulge in a feast from her boyfriend, right? Li Yuan smiled, "It's not too late for me to be happy that these beauties are willing to show their favor." Then he winked and teased Lucia and Wu Hao, "Look, these perverts' eyes turned green when they heard you were going." Li Lanrong pursed his lips and snickered, "Hee, it's settled then. Do you want to go back to the dormitory and change clothes?" Lucia had already learned to answer quickly and nodded quickly, "Hey, of course, we will go back to take a shower and change clothes." Renjun twisted his neck and echoed, "Yeah, it's really tiring to play the whole game. I feel like my bones are all numb." Suddenly, a gust of fragrant wind came, and Li Yuan felt a little white flowers flickering in front of his eyes. Before the people arrive, the sound comes first. Li Yuan, "Lucia, what are you talking about, smiling so happily?" Li Yuan glanced sideways and saw that the big bear girl wearing a JK skirt and long sexy legs was already standing in front of him. Before Li Yuan could speak, Lucia answered with a shy voice, Wrong, brother Yuan just said that he was going to treat our classmates to a big dinner tonight." Wang Zhurong's beautiful eyes lit up, she stared at Li Yuan, and asked with a smile, "Handsome guy, do you mind having one more person to help you?" Chapter 208 Big Bear Girl attacks again, Li Yuan is frightened. Wang Zhurong suddenly asked such a question, which really surprised Li Yuan. In this case, it is certainly not impossible for him to refuse directly, but with so many classmates looking at him, he would appear to be too stingy and too small-minded. Moreover, students in computer class 1 all know that Wang Zhurong once chased him crazily. When he was on the court just now, he was also a cheerleader passionately, cheering for him. Li Yuan glanced at Wang Zhurong from the corner of his eye. She was indeed wearing very sexy clothes today and had beautiful makeup. Compared with ordinary freshman girls, she was indeed not in the same dimension. If it weren't for a pretty beauty like Xia's Haijin by his side, Wang Zhurong would have been much more dazzling. Li Yuan smiled and replied casually, "Of course." Hearing Li Yuan's agreement, Wang Zhurong's eyes lit up and he stared at Li Yuan affectionately. The deep affection in his eyes made the girls Li Lanrong and Gao Xian frown. Wang Zhurong was so excited that he almost jumped up, shaking Lucia and others so hard that they couldn't open their eyes. Hee, thank you handsome guy Li. Li Yuan just smiled and nodded, looked at Lucia, whose eyes were wide open, and joked. "Lao Lu, there are so many people here, can you please restrain yourself? My saliva is almost flowing out." "Is there any?" Lucia finally recovered from the white ravine and wiped his saliva subconsciously, which made Li Yuan feel contemptuous. "Can you stop acting like a pig brother, as if you have never eaten pork?" "No, Lucia, the junior brother, seems to have never eaten pork." Li Yuan turned around, touched Xia's Haijin's head, and said with doting eyes, "Haijin, I'll go back to the dormitory to take a shower and change clothes. You can take the car with me later." Xia's Haijin said oh softly, opened her big eyes again, looked at Li Lanrong's roommates, and asked in a low voice, "What about Xingxin and Chen Chen? Are they with us?" Li Yuan raised his eyebrows. His car could only seat 5 people. With so many people in front of him, it was impossible for them all to sit in his car. As if he could see what Li Yuan was thinking, Li Lanrong quickly said, "Li Yuan, take Haijin, Lucia and the others with you. We can just take a taxi. Just as Li Yuan was about to nod, he heard Wu Hao say. Brother Yuan, you go with a few beauties. 6 or 7 of us boys can't fit in one car, so we'd better take a taxi. Li Yuan was too lazy to waste time on this and spoke straightforwardly. Okay, I'll drive with a few beauties, and you guys will take a taxi. We'll meet directly at the entrance of Lanjiao Mall in a while. The entrance to the boys' dormitory. Girls Li Lanrong, Gao Xian, and Ji Chen were sighing around a brand new BMW X6. Ji Chen suddenly asked, Zhaijin, this BMW X6 is an imported car. Will it cost over $1 million to buy? Xia Zhaijin shook his head in confusion and said, I don't know. Ji Chen thought of the rumored news on the internet, and asked curiously. Zhaijin, I heard that Li Yuan gave sports cars to the 2 girls in the School of Finance. It seems that one is a Porsche 911 and the other is a BMW Z4. Did Li Yuan say he would buy you a car? Chen, Li Lanrong quickly touched Ji Chen's arm and kept winking, signaling not to talk nonsense. Ji Chen smiled coquettishly. She was indeed curious. They were both girlfriends. Li Yuan bought luxury sports cars worth millions for his 2 girlfriends in the financial institution. Why didn't he buy it for Xia Zhaijin? Xia Zhaijin's eyes flickered. She looked at several roommates and knew that they had misunderstood. Explained seriously, Li Yuan bought me a house, and I haven't taken the driver's license test yet. When several girls heard this, they were immediately shocked. Ji Chen's eyes widened and he exclaimed, What, Li Yuan bought you a house? Li Lanrong and Gao Xian were also shaken by the shock, and their voices were trembling. Cars and houses are the deep-rooted obsessions of Chinese people. Especially for houses, those who have permanent property have perseverance. The concept passed down for thousands of years is particularly valued and is of great significance. Li Lanrong opened his mouth in an O shape in shock, his eyes widened, and asked, Zhaijin, did Li Yuan really buy you a house? Yeah, Xia Zhaijin nodded gently. Dishan, a house with 3 bedrooms and 1 living room in the Magic City must cost 1 or 2 million. Ji Chen covered his mouth in shock, his eyes full of envy. Zhaijin, which community is the house in? It's not far from our school. Please take us to see it when you have time. Is it the house where you often stay up late at night and live outside? Xia Zhaijin knew that they had misunderstood again, so she smiled sweetly and explained, I didn't buy it in the Magic City, but in the Mountain City. Bought it in the Mountain City, Ji Chen asked doubtfully, why didn't I buy it for you in the Magic City? House prices in mountain cities should be much cheaper, right? Xia Zhaijin continued to explain in a low voice, I have a younger brother. Grandma wanted him to stay in the Mountain City, so Li Yuan bought me a house in the Mountain City and let my brother go to school in the Mountain City. As for the house, it should be quite big. It has 2 floors. Li Yuan said it is a duplex building. A duplex is equivalent to a small villa. Even in a mountain city, it costs 1 or 2 million. Ji Chen and others suddenly realized it and said with emotion, Tisk, Li Yuan is really considerate, even your family has been considered got in. Li Yuan is indeed very warm and generous, but Li Lanrong was about to say, but it was a bit too fussy, but suddenly felt inappropriate and swallowed the words back. He, Zhaijin, hurry up and get your driver's license, and then ask Li Yuan to buy you a sports car, so that we can also take advantage of you and experience the feeling of a sports car. Xia Zhaijin lowered her head shyly. She had never asked Li Yuan for anything. Even the bank card Li Yuan gave her, she rarely used it. At most, she took the initiative to buy some food and some clothes and shoes for Li Zixia when she went shopping with Li Zixia in those few days. Seeing Xia Zhaijin's shy look, Gao Xian teased enviously. Li Yuan has now started his own business. In the future, he may be one of those big bosses who appear on TV. Zhaijin will be the boss's wife in the future, and he won't have to worry about it in this life. Unlike us, after 4 years of hard work in college, we may not be able to find a good job. If we want to buy a house and settle down in Shanghai, it is even more out of reach. Li Lanrong reached out and hugged Xia Zhaijin's arm, joking with a smile. We can hug Zhaijin's thigh. When Zhaijin becomes the boss's wife, it won't be a matter of just a few words to arrange some good jobs for us sisters, right, Zhaijin? Xia Zhaijin glanced at the roommates who were making fun of her, her heartbeat suddenly accelerated and her face turned red. Ji Chen smiled and said, "Stop teasing Zhaijin. Zhaijin is such a gentle, lovely, and kind-hearted girl. She will definitely not forget our good sisters. Let's think about what to eat for dinner. I'm looking forward to it a little bit." Li Lanrong licked his lips and continued, "Yeah, I don't know what Li Yuan will treat us to tonight. Counting it all, this is the second time Li Yuan has treated us to dinner, right? The last time was in the cafeteria. There are 4 of us, 4 in Li Yuan's dormitory, and Wang Zhurong and Ren Jun. There are more than 10 people in total. I don't know if Li Yuan invites us to eat stir-fry, hot pot, barbecue or something like that." Gao Xian comes from an inland province, his eyes lit up and his face showed longing. "Speaking of which, I kind of want to eat seafood. My hometown is inland. Growing up, I have never eaten seafood." Li Lanrong replied, "Seafood should be very expensive, right? As a native of Magic City, Ji Chen lives by the sea." At this time, he showed his own knowledge and explained with a smile. "There are many types of seafood. The ordinary ones are fine, but the slightly better ones are really not cheap and can easily cost hundreds or even thousands. I remember that in Lanjiao shopping mall, there is a newly opened high-end seafood buffet, which costs $5 or $6 per person. 100. My parents came to school to see me some time ago, and when they passed by, they didn't even want to eat it. 400 to 500 per person? This is too expensive." Gao Xian covered her mouth in surprise. This was already her living expenses for more than half a month. Ji Chen lamented, "The high-end seafood buffet is just like that. It's not cheap. It costs 2,000 to 3,000 for a family of 4. One meal can eat up a month's salary. This kind of consumption is considered high-end. Even in the Magic City, it is not affordable for ordinary people. Let's just have some hot pot and barbecue. If the confession fails, chase her bestie." Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 347. Gao Xian smiled and joked, "Li Yuan is so rich that he is willing to give away a house and a sports car. He should be able to afford such a level of consumption, right? I can definitely afford it, but I don't know if he will be willing to part with it." Li Lanrong held Xia Zhaijin's arm with an expectant expression on his face. "That depends on our Zhaijin's face. If Zhaijin opens his mouth, Li Yuan will definitely agree. Sisters, am I right?" "That's right, Zhaijin, I want to eat seafood." D-3223, in the boys' dormitory. After Li Yuan washed up, changed his clothes, and asked casually, "Lao Lu, where have Jing and Tianyu been during this time? Why haven't they been seen?" Lu Jie replied casually, "Jing spends time in the library every day. He seems to have found a part-time job in the library. He doesn't come back until more than 10 o'clock every night. Of course you won't be able to see him if he stays out every night. As for Tianyu, he appears and disappears every day. I don't know what he is up to, and he doesn't communicate with us very much. Who knows where he has gone, maybe he is chasing some girl again." Wu Hao asked curiously, "Brother Yuan, do you want to ask them to go to dinner together? Do you want to call him?" "Forget it, I'm just asking casually." Li Yuan shook his head, a complex look flashed in his eyes. "Yi Jing is okay, his family conditions are average, but he has a strong self-esteem and sometimes deliberately avoids himself. It's not like Lucia, Wu Hao, and Suzuki Yang. Every time they meet, they will always call him brother Yuan and father, and they like to hang out with him very much. Compared with Yu Jing, Lucia, Wu Hao, and Suzuki Yang have slightly better family conditions and are more lively and cheerful people. It can only be said that different people and different families will have completely different personalities. As for Zhou Tianyu, Li Yuan's eyes flashed with a chill, and he felt betrayed in his heart. After knowing the investigation result, he always wanted to have a good talk with the other party, but he couldn't find the right time. Li Yuan said to himself, the other few have already sent lawyers' letters, and Tan Zonghua has also found evidence. I hope it can teach them a profound lesson. Some things cannot be said nonsense, and there is a price to pay for speaking nonsense. Li Yuan didn't know much about the laws related to rumors and defamation, but he had money anyway, so he might as well ask the company's lawyers to submit a legal letter to scare them. He is not a particularly generous person. I'll go down first, you guys can take a taxi there in a minute. The door of the boys' dormitory. Girls Li Lanrong and Gao Xian's eyes lit up when they saw Li Yuan appear. Li Yuan wears very loose sportswear, but because of his tall height, obvious muscle contours, cool face, and his near-human temperament, Li Yuan looks very stylish. Li Lanrong saw Li Yuan's clothes and made a joke, "Handsome Li, you are really good at showing off in the dormitory. Do you have to wear makeup like us girls?" Li Yuan looked at the time and said speechlessly, "It only took me 15 minutes to take a shower and change clothes." "Hee, I'm kidding you." Li Lanrong pursed his lips and chuckled, joking. "Handsome Li, what kind of dinner are you going to treat us to tonight?" Li Yuan smiled, "It depends on what you want to eat." Gao Xian's eyes lit up and he asked tentatively, "Then, is seafood okay?" "Seafood? Okay," Li Yuan replied nonchalantly. He really hasn't eaten much seafood recently and misses the taste of fresh abalone and sea cucumber. After hearing Li Yuan's promise, the three girls, Gao Xian, Li Lanrong, and Ji Chen Chen, were overjoyed and confirmed it again. "Is it really okay?" "Of course," Li Yuan nodded. Gao Xian and others almost jumped up with joy. "Wow, that's great, Li Yuan, you're so good." Li Yuan rubbed Xia's Haijin's head speechlessly and opened the passenger door for her. "I said, it's just a meal of seafood. Is it such a big reaction?" Gao Xian stared at Li Yuan and laughed happily, "Handsome Li, we come from a poor family. We have never eaten seafood since we were young." Li Lanrong raised his hand, "Me too." "Okay, then I'll let you eat enough tonight." Li Yuan smiled and started the vehicle. "Sit tight, let's go." After arriving at Lanjiao shopping mall, Li Yuan took a few people to the seafood buffet where he took Baiwuxi, Suji, and Wang Shui to eat last time. He felt pretty good last time. The various types of seafood were relatively complete and relatively fresh, which was worthy of the price. Li Lanrong and Gao Xian were so frightened that they couldn't even speak when they saw the sky-high price of 688 yuan per person. 688 per person, this is too expensive. How about changing to another one? Li Yuan held Xia's Haijin's hand and looked very relaxed. He looked at the waiter and asked, "Is there a private room here?" "There are a lot of us." "Yes, this handsome guy, how many people do you have?" How many people are here, Li Yuan really didn't know yet. He looked at Li Lanrong and the others and asked. "Besides the 5 of us, Lucia, Wu Hao, Suzuki Yang, Ren Jun, Wang Ming, is there anyone else?" Gao Xian and Li Lanrong looked at each other with strange expressions on their faces. They didn't know whether Li Yuan deliberately missed Wang Zhurong. Several girls didn't speak, and they couldn't understand Wang Zhurong's style. "Li Yuan obviously doesn't like you, why is he still pestering you, what's the point?" So, they all didn't mention it. "Li Yuan, there's also Wang Zhurong, A weak voice sounded. Li Yuan glanced at Xia's Haijin, who was holding his hand, and smiled. He really didn't forget about Big Bear Girl, he just tried it out. He didn't expect Wang Zhurong's popularity among girls was really average. Of course, except for the simple and kind treasure girl. Li Yuan looked at the waiter and smiled, about 12 or 13 people. The waiter's eyes lit up. 688 yuan per person, more than 10 people, it can be considered a big deal. Handsome guy, do you want to go in first, or wait for everyone to arrive? Li Yuan looked at Li Lanrong and Gao Xian, who were impatient, and said, let them go first, I'll wait for the others here. Li Lanrong waved his hand quickly, Li Yuan, let's wait with you, we're not hungry yet. Li Yuan smiled speechlessly, okay, I'll call them and ask where they are. 10 minutes later, Lucia, Wu Hao, Su Ziqiang, Ren Jun, Wang Ming and Wang Zhurong, who was wearing a JK skirt, came over. Looking at the place where Li Yuan was going to treat guests, Lucia and others had the same expression. Brother Yuan, shall we eat seafood here tonight? 688 per person, it's too expensive, my monthly living expenses are only 600 yuan. Brother Yuan, it's so generous. Li Yuan smiled, this seafood buffet is not bad, let's eat here. Lucia swallowed his saliva, his body trembled with excitement, he had never eaten such an expensive meal since he was a child. Brother Yuan, that cost you money. Li Yuan smiled, took out a bank card from his bag and handed it to the waiter. Beauty, swipe your card. Wang Zhurong looked at Li Yuan's generosity of spending 7 or 8,000 yuan with a wave of his hand, her eyes suddenly lit up, and the thought in her mind came to her mind again. Wow, so many big lobsters, is this Australian lobster? There are also sea cucumbers, tuna. There is also barbecue inside, all of which are very fresh imported ingredients, and you can also have hot pot, and there are many delicious snacks, which are really very good. Haha, of course, 688 yuan per person, the written price is also ridiculously expensive. You get what you pay for. Just looking at these ingredients, the price can't be cheap. Sisters, I'm already hungry, and I'll try to eat back tonight. More than a dozen people, except Li Yuan and Xia's Haijin, basically came to this high-end seafood buffet restaurant for the first time, just like Lu Lalao entering the Grand View Garden, it was so shocking. Brother Yuan, do you want to drink something tonight? Lucia was carrying a few boxes of imported beer and holding a thigh of Australian lobster in his hand. Li Yuan smiled, okay, then I'll drink with you. Hee, I knew that Brother Yuan would definitely drink. Lucia smiled and quickly filled Li Yuan's glass. Ladies, we also have low alcohol cocktails and red wine here, do you want to drink some? Li Lanrong, Gao Xian, and others were a little hesitant. In this kind of atmosphere, this kind of environment, and this kind of restaurant, if you don't want to drink, you may not be able to make a profit. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 348. Li Lanrong was a little moved, we haven't drank before, so we won't be drunk, right? Li Yuan smiled, it's okay, just drink a little or not, just join in the fun. In the end, Li Lanrong's curiosity prevailed over his reason, and he shyly replied, okay, I'll just drink a little. Li Lanrong took the lead, and Gao Xian and Ge Chen also expressed their intention to give it a try. As for the big bear girl Wang Zhurong, of course, needless to say, she had already poured herself red wine. Li Yuan touched Xia's Haijin's head and asked, Haijin, do you want to drink some too? Xia's Haijin shook his head and whispered, it's not good to meet auntie and drink alcohol at night. Li Yuan smiled. He didn't expect that Xia's Haijin would pay so much attention to meeting his mother. Okay, then you can drink some milk and juice. After 3 rounds of drinking, Wu Hao was already a little drunk. He picked up a bottle of beer and was about to blow the bottle with Li Yuan. "Brother Yuan, come on, let's just blow up a bottle, and I'll follow you from now on." Before Li Yuan could answer, he drank it all in one gulp. "You guys are trying to get me drunk." Li Yuan blew a bottle with helpless ambition. Fortunately, he had a pretty good drinking capacity, and all he drank was beer. Although he was a little dizzy, he didn't make a fool of himself. Not only the boys Wu Hao and Ren Jun, but also the girls such as Li Lanrong, Gao Xian, Ji Chen Chen, etc. kept raising glasses with Li Yuan. Gao Xian raised his red wine glass with blushing cheeks and stared at Li Yuan with his beautiful eyes. "Great talent, Li. I have written a romance novel. If you are free, please give me some advice." Several girls who were drinking for the first time offered a toast, and Li Yuan was naturally embarrassed to refuse. "Haha, no problem. The current internet literature market is a great opportunity for all things to sprout. If you are interested, it would be good to try it. At least you can earn college tuition and living expenses. It won't be a big problem." Gao Xian's eyes lit up and he asked in disbelief, "Is it true? I can make so much money just by writing." Li Yuan nodded. "Internet writing is very simple. Your writing style is sufficient. As long as you have a suitable subject matter and outline, and a little guidance, it will definitely not be a problem. Maybe you can become a great female writer in the future." "Then thank Mr. Li in advance for his guidance, and I'd like to toast you a glass." Gao Xian drank the red wine in the glass directly. At the dinner table, Wang Zhirong stared at Li Yuan from time to time, which was very interesting. Almost everyone would take the initiative to find Li Yuan to toast. This is the status that strength brings. I must take down this man. Even if it's just a one-night stand, I don't care. Wang Zhirong stared at Li Yuan with her beautiful eyes. Her drinking capacity was not bad, and she secretly played a trick, so she was not drunk at all. A crazy idea in her mind was born in an instant and was deeply rooted in her mind. "Even if you hate me and hate me afterwards, it doesn't matter to me, as long as it's once, just once." Wang Zhirong murmured to himself, keeping his eyes on Li Yuan from the corner of his eye, watching him, Lucia, Li Lanrong, Gao Xian and the others drinking wine happily. As time goes by, they are all young people who have just escaped from the stressful high school life, so they don't have much restraint in drinking. They don't know the extent of their drinking, and they just drink happily and boldly. After about an hour, except for Xia's Haijin who was eating the food slowly, several other people started to look a little drunk. Drinking too much beer makes it easy to go to the toilet, even Li Yuan is no exception. Seeing Li Yuan suddenly stand up and leave, Wang Zhirong's eyes lit up and he followed quietly. As a high-end restaurant, the bathrooms in this store are also luxuriously decorated, spacious and hidden. In the corner of the store, each bathroom is a separate small cubicle. Li Yuan was dizzy and had just opened a small cubicle and was about to put out the water. Suddenly, the bathroom door was opened, and a figure wearing a JK short skirt on the lower body and a camisole on the upper body, with waves in front of her body, suddenly rushed in. Chapter 209. "Hey, monster, shut up now." Suddenly, this relatively spacious bathroom became a bit crowded. Li Yuan was shocked. He suddenly lost all desire to urinate. His mind suddenly cleared and he shouted, "Who?" Wang Zhirong hugged Li Yuan tightly from behind, and the Xiong sisters, who were so big that most girls would envy them, pressed tightly against Li Yuan's back, rubbing, rubbing, rubbing. She did not dare to answer Li Yuan's words for fear of being rejected by Li Yuan. Wrong. She will definitely be rejected by Li Yuan, because Li Yuan has rejected her many times. Feeling Yi Yang's feeling on his back, how could Li Yuan not understand who the other party was? In this high-end seafood buffet restaurant, it is so big, and there is a familiar scent of perfume. It can only be that big bear girl who has been coveting her body for a long time since the first day of school, but has been explicitly rejected by herself many times. Li Yuan felt like his soul was flying out of his mind, and his heart was beating wildly. This thrilling scene made him tremble with fear. Big bear girl, how dare she do that? You are too brave. This is in a public restroom, or a men's restroom, with people coming and going. Maid, she is so crazy. Li Yuan was so frightened that he couldn't even speak. He was not afraid of thieves stealing, but he was afraid that thieves would miss him, and the person who missed him was a female thief. Li Yuan quickly turned around, trying to stop him. How could Wang Zhurong's strength be Li Yuan's opponent? Li Yuan forced her to break free and turned to face her. After seeing Wang Zhurong with a red face, a dazed look, and a pair of red lips eager to try, Li Yuan took a breath and was about to scold loudly, but then he remembered that this was the boys' bathroom and there might be someone next door. If someone found out, he would never be able to wash himself clean even if he fell into the Yellow River. Li Yuan deliberately lowered his voice, stared at Wang Zhurong with a dazed look, and scolded coldly in a low voice. Wang Zhurong, are you crazy? Wang Zhurong seemed to have not heard Li Yuan's scolding at all. She stared at Li Yuan's face, then stood on tiptoe and wanted to kiss Li Yuan. Her head was pushed away by Li Yuan. Li Yuan lowered his voice, are you really crazy? This is the men's bathroom, what are you doing? I've already said, I'm not interested in you, there's no possibility between us. Wang Zhurong didn't answer. Suddenly, she looked down, her eyes lit up. Then, under Li Yuan's confused gaze, she squatted down directly. This is the men's bathroom of the hotel. This kind of scene can only be seen in a certain country's action movies. No, the movies are not so exaggerated. I was molested? Wang Zhurong, are you crazy? Li Yuan was in constant torment, in pain and joy. He stood, and Wang Zhurong squatted. Because Dakshin Mei was wearing a sexy vest, the scenery was unobstructed when looking down from above. The two natural peaks were indeed magnificent and beautiful, like an abyss that could swallow up all the eyes of the opposite sex. Li Yuan looked away with difficulty and raised his head, not daring to look at the dynamic scene below. Wang Zhurong was greatly encouraged when she saw that cow's hydrotherapy was effective. What she feared most was that if she had done this and Li Yuan still had no reaction to her, she really didn't know what to do. But now, her plan worked. Li Yuan, this playboy, was not completely indifferent to her. If Li Yuan knew what Dakshin Mei was thinking, he will definitely laugh at her. Let's not talk about Wang Zhurong's external conditions. Although she is not as good as Xia Zhong and Bai, the perfect female benchmarks created by Nuhua. But in the general science class, she is also a class flower. Add to that the sisters Xiongda and Xiong'er, who are at least D++, and the temptation can be raised to another level. In the two computer classes, there are a lot of boys chasing her. Moreover, even if a girl with a very ordinary appearance is serving with her mouth, as long as the man is not a eunuch, X will have some reaction. In her heart, she is also very uneasy. From the first day, when she saw Li Yuan introduce himself, she noticed this boy with a very stylish figure, appearance, and clothes. If it were just that, it would not be a big deal for her. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 349. But a self-introduction between Li Yuan and Lucio was similar to a two-person turn, which made her feel very humiliated. At that time, she was full of confidence and decided to make Li Yuan her subordinate, and then ruthlessly beat him kick away. But later, as Li Yuan's identity was revealed layer by layer, Li Yuan began to show his talented side. The girls who appeared around Li Yuan were more beautiful than the last, which made her feel ashamed, but also deepened her feelings. Her competitive mentality. When she saw with her own eyes that Li Yuan gave away 2 sports cars worth millions to his 2 girlfriends in Kaiwan, she completely lost her guard. She planned to capture Li Yuan no matter what, and she also wanted a sports car like that. Finally, she waited for the opportunity and saw Li Yuan's secret, thinking that with this secret, she could control Li Yuan and make him her subordinate. On the day of the book signing, she confidently went to support her and put on exquisite makeup. I even took a shower 3 times, deliberately washing myself from top to bottom, inside and out, just waiting for that moment to come. But in the end, because it was revealed that Li Yuan was on several boats, the information she had was completely useless to Li Yuan. Today, she finally grasped this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity again. Li Yuan was about to speak when he suddenly heard movement from next door. He could hear the bathroom door being opened and someone muttering quietly. After his rebirth, his 5 senses were very sensitive. "Hey, I thought I heard a girl's voice just now. Isn't this the men's restroom? Did I drink too much and hallucinate, or did some woman go to the wrong restroom? How strange." Li Yuan felt very helpless, lowered his voice and asked, "Wang Zhirong, why are you doing this? There is absolutely no possibility between the 2 of us. Why do you have to do this to yourself? Hurry up and let go, otherwise, if I really call someone, we won't look good at that time. Mad, you are molesting me, do you know? I can retaliate." In the private room, Lucia and Wu Hao were still drinking beer. Lucia glanced at the empty seat next to Xia's Haijin and asked drunkenly, "Classmates Haijin, where is brother Yuan? Did he just go to the toilet? Why hasn't he come back yet?" Xia's Haijin frowned and looked towards the restaurant, but she didn't see Li Yuan. Gao Xian asked with concern, "Li Yuan drank a lot today, is he drunk?" Wu Hao glanced at the high-tech zone in surprise and shook his head, "We only drank beer today, so we shouldn't be drunk, right? I remember that brother Yuan has a very good capacity for drinking. He can drink 1.5 pounds of liquor and drink as much beer as he wants." Gao Xian glared at Wu Hao, his cheeks were red, and he snorted, "You guys, drink like you are risking your life. Just drink in moderation. You have to drink so much. Li Yuan is probably in the toilet. Can any of you go take a look? He must not have drunk too much." Lucia stood up drunkenly and muttered, "Let me go and take a look. This is really not brother Yuan's capacity. He is so strong, but he can drink more than me. How can this be the case?" As soon as Lu Jiagong left, Xia's Haijin also stood up in a hurry, with an anxious look on his face, and whispered something. "I'll go check out other parts of the hotel." After Xia's Haijin and Lucia both left, Wu Hao smiled and joked, "Haijin really cares about brother Yuan. In fact, she doesn't have to worry at all. She rarely gets drunk after drinking beer. She only drinks until she is full." Ji Chen took a sip of red wine and suddenly asked curiously, "Hey, why is Wang Zhirong missing?" Gao Xian was so surprised that he glanced at Ji Chen's side and asked, "Has she gone to the toilet too?" Ji Chen shook his head, "I don't know either. Seeing that she was not in a high mood today, she didn't say much during the meal." Li Lanrong sneered and joked, "Isn't she quite thick-skinned? She is so shameless that she wants to follow her. Who doesn't know what her intentions are? Li Yuan already has a girlfriend, and she is still stalking her. It's really annoying." Disgust. Gao Xian added meaningfully, "What else can it be because of envy, jealousy, and hate? Li Yuan is so generous, buying luxury cars and mansions for several girlfriends. If she can become Li Yuan's girlfriend, not only will she gain face when it comes to public speaking, but at least she won't have to worry about money and material things. Humph, then Li Yuan must be able to like her. Li Lanrong looked disdainful. Zhaijin is so beautiful, so gentle, so simple, so considerate. I can't imagine any reason why Li Yuan would like a vixen like Wang Zhirong. Indeed, I heard that she offered to give free money to Li Yuan several times, but Li Yuan refused. Opposite, the three boys, Wu Hao, Ren Jun, and Wang Ming, couldn't help laughing and almost laughed. The psychology of this girl is completely different from the psychology of boys. Girls think that men only like beautiful ones, but this is not necessarily true. Some men will like those who are particularly hot, or have a particularly good life, or they may be particularly big. All in all, preferences vary. But there is one thing that girls are like boys, that is, they like to be smooth-talking, glib, or have high emotional intelligence. Otherwise, how could there be such a saying as men are not bad, women are not loving? Therefore, appearance, money, body, and family are very important, but they are not absolutely important. The degree of importance to each girl is completely different. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a yellow-haired guy who could call many pretty girls with a single call. Similarly, men are the same. After being used to the highbrow culture, they also need to try the lowbrow culture occasionally. Bad girls, don't let them go. And girls with personality and figure like Wang Zhirong are also very attractive to boys. In the entire computer class, there are definitely more boys who want to pursue Wang Zhirong than those who want to pursue the class monitor Xiang Qin Yang Kaiu. As for Xia Zhaijin, everyone knows their own limitations and dares not even think about it. Lu Jia came to the bathroom and shouted, "Brother Yuan? Are you in there?" In the boys' bathroom, in a toilet cubicle, Li Yuan heard Lu Jia's voice and was scared out of his wits. His brain shuddered, and he realized that more than 10 minutes had passed without him realizing it. Damn, I was already immersed in it just now. Big Bear's skills are really great, and even an old driver like him almost couldn't control himself. Li Yuan looked at the door handle of the bathroom and found that it was not closed. He was shocked and afraid that Lu Jia would come in one by one. He quickly screwed the door shut, sorted out his thoughts, coughed lightly, and replied. "Sixth brother, what's the matter?" Hearing Li Yuan's voice, Lu Jia was relieved and said with a smile. "Brother Yuan, why did you take so long to go to the toilet? Did you vomit?" Li Yuan was speechless. Thinking, it's just 7 or 8 bottles of beer. I wouldn't drink too much in my previous life, let alone me who is cheating in this life. No, I suddenly have diarrhea. Maybe I'm allergic to seafood. I'll be fine after squatting in the toilet for a while. Hearing that Li Yuan had diarrhea, Lu Jia laughed. "Okay, then you squat, I'll go over first." "Yeah," Li Yuan's voice was a little strange, and he suddenly hissed. It turned out that Wang Zhirong boldly grabbed his hand and put it on her nana. Li Yuan subconsciously grabbed it. The first feeling, to describe it in one word, is very big, beyond the ordinary feeling, 2 lifetimes combined, it is also the best. Secondly, it is indeed a bit elastic, very soft and delicate, worthy of being a gifted person, only the wrong name, not the wrong nickname. Wang Zhirong stared at Li Yuan with seductive eyes, with a bit of pride and playfulness in her eyes. As if saying, "Li Yuan, in the end, I still got you." After a while, after cleaning up, Wang Zhirong slowly got up, hugged Li Yuan directly, kissed him on the face, and then whispered in Li Yuan's ear. "Li, the talented man, do you want to go further? I'll be there anytime." Li Yuan suddenly pinched the disobedient Xiongda Xiong sisters, lowered his voice playfully, and pulled up his pants. "Wang Zhirong, that's enough, don't play with fire and get burned." After Li Yuan finished speaking, he didn't give Wang Zhirong time to react, and directly opened the door of the bathroom, looked outside, and when he found that no one was there, he walked out with a normal look. In the bathroom, Wang Zhirong recalled the scene just now, and muttered happily in his heart. Tisk, why are you pretending to be so cool? In the end, didn't I succeed? Now that we have this relationship, the next step will be even easier. Li Yuan, I don't believe that I can't take you down. After speaking, she tidied up the small vest that Li Yuan had torn off, with a smug smile on her lips, secretly opened the door, looked outside, and ran out when no one was there. In the box, she saw Li Yuan coming back. Xia's Haijin quickly asked with concern, Li Yuan, are you feeling better? If the confession fails, chase her bestie. Author, Ren Shenkui Kan Ru Xiahua. Chapter 350. Just now, Lu Jie told several people that Li Yuan had diarrhea and was squatting in the bathroom. Li Yuan smiled awkwardly, feeling a little guilty as a thief, even though he was clearly the victim. But in this domestic environment, no one will believe you if you tell me, and you might even get slapped down. He could only break his teeth, swallow it in his stomach, and silently endure this humiliating experience. Li Yuan grabbed Xia's Haijin's hand, smiled and nodded, it's okay, much better. Oh. It's okay. Xia's Haijin breathed a sigh of relief, and the smile returned to his face. Lu Jie laughed, picked up a bottle of beer, and gestured to Li Yuan, Brother Yuan, can you still drink? Li Yuan was feeling a little bored, so he picked up the beer in front of him and touched Lu Jie directly. Of course, no problem, come on, do it in one go. Tisk, tisk, Brother Yuan, you are so powerful and domineering. I did it too, Lu Jie followed suit and drank it all in one gulp. At this time, Wang Zhirong also shook off the water on his hand and returned to his seat with a smile. Ji Chen Chen saw that Wang Zhirong seemed to be a different person and was in a very good mood. He couldn't help but ask curiously. Zhirong, what are you doing? You seem to be in a good mood. Wang Zhirong smiled faintly and replied, call your boyfriend. Hearing Wang Zhirong's straightforward answer, Ji Chen Chen, Li Lanrong, Lu Jie, and Wu Hao were all shocked. They looked at Wang Zhirong in shock. They all knew that Wang Zhirong did not have a boyfriend in college, otherwise he would not have died for Li Yuan. Stalking. Ji Chen Chen's eyes widened and he asked in confusion, Zhirong, when did you find a boyfriend? Wang Zhirong smiled brightly, bit his lip, and straightened his body. Ji Chen Chen, Li Lanrong, and Gao Xian couldn't help but shrink back after looking at it. They felt a little inferior in their hearts. Wang Zhirong rolled up her hair and glanced at Li Yuan intentionally or unintentionally from the corner of her eye. Haha, how should I put it, it was just confirmed. Li Yuan stood aside, raised his eyebrows, and calmly took a sip of beer, feeling very upset. After hiding for so long and rejecting so many times, I was still almost defeated by this monster. Fortunately, there is no further relationship, otherwise he would really feel a little alienated. Now, it can only be regarded as vegetarian. Ji Chen Chen's eyes lit up and he asked curiously, could it be that a boy just called you to confess his love to you and you agreed? Is this boy from our school? It feels a bit sudden. Hee, guess what? Wang Zhirong picked up the red wine glass with a smile, raised it to Li Yuan, and said meaningfully. Great talent Li, from now on, I will also have a wife. Oh, congratulations, Li Yuan raised his wine glass calmly and replied calmly, with a very calm expression. But I was a little irritated in my heart. This big bear girl didn't think that she had something to do with him after what happened just now, right? Is she considered his girlfriend? Li Yuan just wanted to reply, thinking about the measuring tape. Wang Zhirong replied with a smile, we are so happy. No one present had any doubts about what would happen to Li Yuan and Wang Zhirong. After all, everyone has witnessed how Wang Zhirong has been chasing Li Yuan for more than a month. Li Yuan is not really a dedicated and infatuated good man, but a love-minded carrot with 4 girlfriends. If he was really interested in Wang Zhirong, he would have cooked the rice with Wang Zhirong's initiative. Speaking of which, they were all a little curious and puzzled. Considering Li Yuan's playfulness, Wang Zhirong being so proactive, his good looks not bad, being a class star, and having extraordinary talents, why did Li Yuan keep refusing? Lucia on the side felt a little depressed when she heard Wang Zhirong admit in person that she already had a boyfriend. He had fallen in love with Wang Zhirong from the first day of school. Although he chased her for a long time but could not catch her, he really liked her after all. This may be the secret love of his first love. Lucia took a bottle of beer, stood up abruptly, looked at Wang Zhirong, and said in a low voice with a bit of decadence. Wrong, let me toast you and wish you happiness in the future. Seeing Lucia's sudden move, several classmates, including Li Yuan, were a little surprised. They naturally knew that Lucia had chased Wang Zhirong. This was what Lucia said publicly, but they didn't expect. Wu Hao and Ren Jun all felt sorry for Lucia. The chance of a kiss was gone for the time being. Wang Zhirong was a little surprised when he saw Lucia getting up. He took a deep look at him and sighed inwardly. Without Li Yuan as a comparison, Lucia would actually be pretty good. She is 1.9 centimeters tall and is a 985 college student. She has average looks and can play basketball. For a girl like her, she is quite attractive. It's a pity that with Li Yuan, who crushes Lucia in all aspects except height, all he can do is say sorry. Wang Zhirong also stood up, raised a glass of red wine, and smiled at Lucia. Thanks. By the time we had enough wine and food, it was already around 9 o'clock in the evening. Xiaoqiang, Ajun, Laolu, and Mozi are a little drunk. Please be careful when you go back. After putting several grown men into a taxi, Li Yuan looked at Li Lanrong and Gao Xian again. Although it was their first time drinking, they didn't drink much. Zhaijin, you and I sit in a car and watch them go back to the dormitory first, and then we go home together. Yeah, Xia Zhaijin nodded shyly, her heart pounding. She would go back with Li Yuan to see his mother soon. In their hometown, it was equivalent to a daughter-in-law meeting her mother-in-law. It would be a lie to say that she was not worried. Li Yuan saw Xia Zhaijin's nervousness, touched her head, smiled at her, and put his head close to Xia Zhaijin's earlobe. Don't worry, my mother will definitely like you. Chapter 210 Queen Mother Xia was furious, I gave birth to a bastard. Li Yuan called a taxi and a designated driver, and sent several girls to the downstairs of the girls' dormitory before leaving with Xia Zhaijin. Watching Li Yuan and Xia Zhaijin leaving, Wang Zhirong showed an envious expression in the corner of her eyes, licked her lips, savored the smell of Li Yuan, clenched her fists, raised them slightly, and cheered herself up. Li Yuan, you can't escape from my palm. I will definitely catch the man I want to chase. One day, you will obediently surrender to my skirt, be fascinated by me, and be obsessed with me. Ji Chen, who was standing by, saw Wang Zhirong staring at the backs of Li Yuan and Xia Zhaijin, and asked in confusion. Zhirong, why are you still looking? By the way, is your boyfriend also a student of our Xia University? Wang Zhirong came back to her senses, glanced at Ji Chen, and smiled. He, Chen, congratulations, you guessed it right. Ji Chen was shocked and widened his eyes in surprise, really? Which college? Is he a senior, or is he in the same grade as us? Wang Zhirong watched Li Yuan and Xia Zhaijin drive away in the BMW X6, and replied with a smile. They are in the same class. Jinxia Villa Community. Xia Zhaijin looked up at the house where the lights were still on, her heart pounding, and the palm of her hand holding Li Yuan was already sweating. Under the dim light, this beautiful girl with a fairy-like appearance was so nervous that she even stuttered when she spoke. Li Yuan, Auntie, I'm a little scared of Auntie, I'm afraid she doesn't like me. Li Yuan laughed and touched her head. This silly girl was very nervous on the way out of the restaurant, and kept asking many silly questions. Like what's Auntie's temper, what dishes Auntie likes to eat? Hygiene baby, be confident. My mother is so happy to find a daughter-in-law as beautiful, sensible, and smart as you. She will definitely like you very much. Don't worry at all. Besides, I'm here for everything. Li Yuan's comfort only made Xia's Haijin feel a little relieved, but she was still very nervous inside. Looking at the house in front of her where she had lived for several days, it seemed like she had come to a completely unfamiliar place. The real mistress of this house is back. In the living room, Xia Qin was mopping the floor with a mop, mopping the floor back and forth again, and the whole living room was mopped smooth and spotless. Li Zixia sat on the sofa, eating durian, and made a speechless joke. Mom, you have mopped the floor at home for the third time, and it is cleaner than my face now. You have been sitting on the long-distance bus for half a day, can't you take a good rest and watch TV series? Xia Qin mopped the floor again seriously, and when she looked around and didn't notice any dust, she nodded with satisfaction and laughed.